Hey everybody, it's Kyle here. Welcome back to another video. This week's video is an update on driving, and that is to say that I actually took my driver's test. Finally made it to the end of the road, so to speak. This is the first time ever that I've taken the test. I say that because this isn't the first time that I've gotten my permit. I've gotten my permit I think 4 times over the years, and, it's just always been a struggle, and this time, my permit was going to expire, and it was go time. Like, I wanted to finally get to a point where I took the test. I've never something has always prevented me mentally from taking the test until the other day, and I kinda wanna break this down a little bit into how I was feeling before, during, and after the test. Before the test, honestly, I was freaking out. Like, I put on some, good upbeat music to try and get myself to, calm down. Well, I actually listened to Someone's Watching Over Me by Hilary Duff, Permission to Dance by BTS, and Fly by Hilary Duff, because that song's all about, spreading your wings and, finally soaring. And that's really what driving is for me. Finally, it represents the feeling of freedom. And I really wanted to just really go at it and really, experience what that's like. So while getting ready, I listened to those 3 songs on repeat just to get, in the right mental state. Said a couple prayers, uh, just that everything would go well. So I decided also, I got a text from my mom before I went, and she said, "Leave your worries at home." And I am someone who wears a Fitbit, and when I get nervous, I like to look at my heart rate. So, as a symbolic and physical representation of leaving my worries at home, I took my Fitbit off and left it on the table so I wouldn't be tempted to think about how worried and nervous I was. So, me and my dad, he's the person that took me on my test, decided to go out there about 9 a.m. And I'm thinking, if it's really busy, we'll practice beforehand, because I had a general idea of, the general route that they typically took. So that's what happened, is it was really busy. So we ended up practicing a couple of times, and that didn't, at that point, like, I was still nervous, but it's like, okay, a couple more practice under my belt. And when we finally came back to the DMV, the handicap spot was open, and that's the spot that I wanted. So I was like, okay, it's open. It's go time. Let's, let's go in. I was the 9th person in to be seen, so I had quite a long wait to even get up to the counter. Thankfully, someone from my old job happened to be there, and I was able to talk with them the entire time while waiting, and that did wonders in taking my mind off of what I was actually there to do. So when they finally called me up, it was like, oh, it's my turn. And the woman at the counter, she's lovely. She asked, this is your first, you've never had a license before. And I said, no. And she said, well, why do you want it now? Why? Well, she asked 2 questions. She has said, what's going on? And I said, I did have a couple car accidents that I think ultimately played a role in just me being nervous being behind the wheel. And then I told her the reason why I wanted to start driving now is because, I want independence and I want to have an easier time getting to work. Speaking of work, sidebar, the job that I've been talking about, I just found out today isn't going to pan out because of funding. So that's great. But now, we'll deal with that as it comes. So, we sign all the needed paperwork and everything. And the instructor says, okay, go out in your car, start the car, and I will be there in a couple of minutes. Well, a couple of minutes turned into 20 minutes, give or take a little bit. I'm pretty sure it was about 20 minutes. And in that 20 minutes, that's when the nerves really started to hit me, because that's when it was like I was sitting in the driver's seat with it running, like, oh, I'm about to do this. I'm about to do this. I can't believe I'm about to do this. And my dad was, standing outside the car. I had the window down and he was talking to me. And, I'm like, do you have any words? And he's like, you got this. But, there was this huge, like, SUV next to me. And he's like, just make sure you pull out and clear this car before you turn and you'll be fine. And so she comes out. I take a deep breath. She says, just take a deep breath. It's fine. That's what we're here for. If you need to take it again, then I'll tell you what you did wrong. I said, okay. So I close my eyes and I take a deep breath. And she says, okay, now back out. And so I do. I don't hit the car. Thank God. And as soon as we take off, she asks me about the job that I'm hoping or was hoping to get. And that honestly was a saving grace. One, her energy was just, super calming. And second, I think it honestly let me get out of my own head in terms of, worrying about making a mistake. All I could do was to answer her questions and focus on what she was telling me to do at the time. Go straight here and at the stop sign, turn right. And then, when we turn, okay, use your blinker when it's clear and get in the left lane. And at one point, pull over. I did forget to use my blinker for that. Oops. And then we pulled over. She had me do a couple things, and we went back to the DMV. And I pull in, and she says, was that worth all the stress? And I said, no, not really. And just to backtrack a quick second, on the ride, she asked me, I could tell you're nervous, and I want to ask you, is your dad nervous? Because I think he's nervous. And I said, yeah, I think that's kind of been the problem. Our nerves have fed into each other. So that's why I've waited till the last possible second to come attempt my test, because we just, we stress. We stress. And she's like, well, was that worth it? And so when she said, was that worth all the stress? I said, no. But I said, thank you for being the one who took me on my test. Your energy was calming. And she said, oh, it was all you. Like, you did this yourself. And I said, did I pass? Like, I still don't know if I passed at this point. And she goes, oh, yes, you did. Like, you did fine. The only thing I marked you on was that one time you didn't use your blinker. But you passed. You got your driver's license. I can't believe I freaking got my driver's license. But, so I know I passed. And she says, okay, I'm going to get out of the car. I'm going to go get your temporary license. But when she gets out of the car, because in here in Illinois, you get a temporary license and then you get a real license in the mail. So she gets out of the car and she tells my dad, come with me. She doesn't tell him at first that I got my license. She just says, come with me. So he is thinking, did he pass? And one of the other DMV employees asked, how did Kyle do? And he goes, I think fine. I don't know. And my instructor was like, oh, he did great. Like, he passed. And, then my dad came out with my temporary license, got in the car, and he just let out the biggest, like, oh my God. And he goes, I didn't want to tell you this before you were driving, but I was worried sick. I was worried sick last night. I was worried sick while you were on the drive. And I said, how long was I gone? And he said, about 10, 15 minutes, but it was the longest 10 or 15 minutes like ever. And I was just like, I don't know. He was excited, which, I was super excited. The first person that I called was my mom, and I actually got a little emotional, like dialing the phone and calling her to tell her that I had gotten it my first time, because that's what, honestly, I was thinking in my head, that I would take the test, fail it, but, learn what I needed to improve on and go back and try again. So the fact that I surprised myself and got it the first time was just like mind blowing to me. Like, honestly, it's still very weird to think that, like, I could drive. Like, I could go out and drive without anybody with me in the car. Like, it's hard to really explain and describe the feeling of finally achieving something that you once thought was utterly impossible. And that's honestly what driving for me was. I used to think it was completely impossible, and that's because I was not in the right mental headspace of thinking I was a capable driver. I was too worried about, causing an accident. After being in accidents, I just knowing what that's like, I was, just afraid of causing accidents. But she said I did perfectly fine. I knew I was, physically fine to do it. It was just mentally I was not in a good headspace for so many years. So to finally achieve something that was once deemed impossible by my own, my own mental state, I thought, like, it was just the biggest relief. Like, I can't explain to you, like, how light I felt after realizing that I had passed my driver's test. And even just confidence has, like, ballooned since getting my driver's license and knowing that I'm a licensed driver. I can do this. And granted, I've driven a few places. The very first place I drove was actually just down the road to the Casey's to get my own lunch, because I was by myself and I was hungry, and I was like, you know what? I can go get food. And, I could have driven out to McDonald's, but I thought, my first drive without somebody in the car, let's just go somewhere nice and easy that I've been to before. And it went fine. And yesterday, my friend Haley, she asked me to run something to her work for her, like meet her at her work. And, like, it was just the surrealist feeling to actually, someone could call upon me to help them out in situations. Like, that's something that I want to touch on, is like, I always felt, like a burden sometimes, because I always had to ask people for rides and had to plan my day around other people's days so I could make it the most convenient for them to take me places. And just to know that, like, I don't have to do that anymore is absolutely insane to me. Like, absolutely insane. Like, it's still just comes in waves where I just shake in excitement. Like, I can't believe I fucking did this. Sorry for the language, but that's really how it feels. Like, it was the biggest, like, oh my God moment, like, thus far in that I can think of. Like, I did it. And I know there was many people that didn't think I would because I was so scared to drive. And I'm just so happy that I was able to prove them wrong and prove myself right, because this time when attempting to drive, I did a lot of positive affirmations and positive self-talk of saying, like, I am capable, I know what I'm doing, now I just have to do it. And I would repeat that over and over. So for it to pay off the first time, like, oh my God, like, I don't know how to, it's so hard to describe. But there's also something, it doesn't feel real yet. Like, it still feels like a dream that it's happened. And I think that's because I'm slowly turning my back on all the years of thinking I was incapable of driving and that it would never happen for me. Like, that was one of the biggest chips on my shoulder that I could ever tell you. And to finally be able to let that go, like, is such a blessing and relief. But like, just, I'm slowly turning my back on the fear and the anxiety of that. So it's only been 2 days at this 3 days at, mm, three full days since I got my license. And like, it still just doesn't feel quite real. But, like, that's just gonna come in time, I suppose. And like, as the more I drive on my own and with people, and I just can't freaking believe it. Like, I just can't believe that I did it. And I just want to, thank all my supporters that have helped me. My dad, especially, for being my teacher. Haley, for stepping in when my dad couldn't teach me. Like, my mom, my brother, sister-in-law, like, everyone that supported me, my aunt, Jean. Like, thank you so much for being there for me and believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. And for those that are struggling with, you know, being scared to drive, honestly, you can do this. You just have to, fake it till you make it. Believe in yourself. The positive talk really helped change. And find your motivation. I got angry when I found out people were doubting that I was going to be able to drive. So I turned that frustration and anger that they didn't believe in me into the fuel that helped propel me to get my license. So my biggest advice would be to, find motivation and be sure that you're doing it for yourself. Drive for yourself. Don't drive for anyone else, because that's the reason I failed so many other times, was because I was practicing and trying to drive for my parents, because they believed in me before I could believe in myself. But they wanted me to get my license because they knew that it would give me a sense of freedom and accomplishment, and help me reach my full potential. But I didn't believe it at the time. So I failed because I didn't believe what they were telling me. So, find your motivation, do it for you, and, try. Try, and all you can do is learn. Turn it into a learning experience, because even though I passed it on my first attempt, like, it was a learning experience to know that I can multitask. I can, handle the pressure of someone grading me on my driving, talk to them about my personal life, and drive safely. I can do all that. And she was testing me on that, and I freaking passed. Like, I still can't believe that I passed. And this is just the beginning. I know I said in the beginning of this video that the job that I have been talking about previously isn't panning out the way that I hoped it would, but now driving, now I can look at places that I couldn't look at before, And, you know, there is still hope with that organization potentially as well. But like now the doors are wide open and now I just have to walk through it. And I want to remind those watching that if you have a door that you want to walk through, push that sucker open and walk through it. Because you come through on the other side the best version of yourself. And I feel like I'm finally growing into the person that I'm supposed to be. And driving is just another part that's falling into place. And I can't freaking believe it, you guys. Like, I'm trying to contain my excitement because that's the kind of excitement where I just want to like I can't believe it. But thank you to all of those people and everyone that supported me and followed me along on this journey. And I'm sure that there will be other driving updates in the future. But we did it, everybody, and thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe. I post regularly on Tuesdays. And be sure to share with your friends if they can benefit from this video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it, and again, subscribe. I will see you next time.